Hey guys, it's Dave, and I wanted to do a quick Saturn long box collection update. It's been a while since I've posted one. I've had several pickups, but I have started slowing down my pickups. I've kind of come to the end of what I'm going to do as far as long box goes. I got a lot to cover here, but beside the 50 or some odd games that I picked up back in the day, around like 97, 98, 99 for the Saturn, it was actually a couple years ago that I decided to start getting back into collecting for this thing, just because it's my favorite console of all time, and I figured I'd give it some love and dedication. I'm aware that the Japanese import library is vastly superior as far as just the variety and that it has so many great games that didn't come over to the West. But I was still dedicated to collecting for the Western releases, so I'm gonna get right into this, and I'm just gonna go through each game and briefly say something about it. I'm not gonna try to spend too much time like I did last time. So here we go. To start out, we've got 3D Baseball by Crystal Dynamics, one of the few real 3D baseball games aside from World Series 98 on the Saturn. It's not great, but it does carry some value just because of the rarity. You got Alvord Odyssey here. Excellent working designs, localization. I love the script. It's got some bugs that kind of hold it back from greatness, but I still think that it's a decent game. It's fun in doses. Alien Trilogy is an amazing first-person shooter. For not being a lobotomy game, Probe did an amazing job porting it, and I just think that it's got this great ambiance. Heavy difficulty though. ASB 97. This is my favorite baseball game on the Saturn. It kind of dethroned World Series Baseball 98. It's just a lot of fun to play, and I love that commentary by John Miller. I know that's probably sacrilege to say, but it's a good game. Ended up being the All-Star baseball series on the N64, which is a great series of games. Alone in the Dark, One-Eyed Jack. This is a terrible port. The 3DO version was better, but this does come with a calling card and a bookmark. Amok. This is an excellent little game by Lemon, who was an Amiga demo hacker group that went under the Scavenger label, and they created this game using voxels for the 3D playfield, so that was kind of an interesting little thing. Area 51. How many of you guys are going to storm Area 51? This is a great classic arcade shooter, light gun shooter. If you got your CRT and your light gun, still lots of fun. Perfect port too. A stall. I absolutely love this game. Beautiful 2D platformer. Quite difficult. It's more difficult than the Japanese version, but it's well worth it. It's got that quirky, titleless spine that I'm sure we're all aware of at this point. Baku Baku. Of all the 2D puzzler games on the Saturn, this is one of the best. I highly recommend it. It doesn't look too great from the cover because we got this weird box art, but it is a great game. Battle Arena Toshinden. I mean, this is not a very good 3D fighter, but it is, it was kind of like a watershed moment in 3D gaming. Everybody was talking about it back in the day. Big deal back in the day, not so much today. Hasn't really held up. Blast Chamber. Why do I own this game on Saturn? Just because I had good memories of it on PlayStation, and I just decided to get it on Saturn. I'm not sure it's held up too well though. Still maybe a little fun with friends, but not by yourself. I love point-and-click games. I love the Discworld games, which we did not get in the West, but Blazing Dragons is definitely one of those titles that I just had to have. The Monty Python humor is great, We didn't get Dragon's Lair on the Saturn in the West, but we did get Brain Dead 13, which is kind of the same cinematic style, you just use the D-pad to move in different directions so that you don't get killed. And it's got some quirky, funny stuff. Bubble Bobble, featuring Rainbow Islands. This is an excellent arcade compilation here. Some excellent Taito games. Terrible box art by Acclaim, of course. That's what they're known for. Bug and Bug 2. These games are awesome. They're fun. Quasi, 2.5D platformers, high level of difficulty, quirky, good music, just a lot of fun to play. I like it. Burning Rangers, I don't think we as a community can say enough good things about Burning Rangers. Sonic Team's follow-up to Nights into Dreams, an excellent showpiece for the Saturn. Even when it chugged at times, even when it pushed the Saturn hardware, it did a lot of amazing things, and it was actually real fun to play. I love it. Bust a Move 2 is an excellent Neo Geo arcade port. I love this game even more than Bust a Move 3. I don't own Bust a Move 3 because I have nostalgia for Bust a Move 2. I love this game. Simon, Father K's favorite game, Casper. I have more memories of this as a movie as a kid than the game. I picked it up recently and I played it with my kid. It was actually pretty fun. You do need a map though. You can download a map online and it makes it a lot easier to play. Center Ring Boxing. This is the only JVC title we'd get published in the West. It's an interesting boxing game. It's very lots of options. It's very much a thinking man's fighter. It's not just, you don't just get right into it and start playing. Clockwork Night and Clockwork Night 2, which is really just one game. I've said this before. They rushed the launch, so they had to cut the game in half, and this one ends on a cliffhanger, and then you get a more refined version, the second half, which they were able to work on a little bit more. In Japan, they released these two games together as a compilation, or as one game, I guess you could say. And that's the way it should have been, but definitely worth owning. I absolutely love the Clockwork Night games. And we're going back up to the top here. Oh, and if you guys are wondering why, I've explained before, but if you're wondering why they're in these I don't know, paper lids or whatever, it is because I keep them locked up, because my little daughter, who's almost 12 months old, or 11, 12 months old, she gets into everything, she and my son before her, who was a toddler, they just get into everything, and this is something I definitely want to keep nice for later. So yeah, I'm gonna keep it locked up until they're well old enough to not even care or be interested in it, and then I'll bring it out for display. But you got Command and Conquer here, which is an excellent PC port. This comes with 2 discs. Each disc is a separate game. You get to play 2 different factions, and aside from the fact that it's 240p, it's absolutely flawless. I love it. I got this game because Peter Malik, my friend and fellow Shiro, was talking it up, talking about how he's having fun with it, and honestly, I had some fun with it too. It starts out easy and then it just gets really hard. It's definitely quirky, but it's one of those titles that I just had to pick up, and I got it cheap. So, Creature Shock. This is an Argonaut software game published by Data East. It's quirky. It's a genre mashup game. My copy is in pretty bad condition. It's the only game that I have that's in that kind of terrible condition, but I will start going faster. We got Crime Wave. Try this game. Go burn it. Go, try it on an emulator. It's really good, actually. I really like it. It's this cop chasing game, but the thing is, it does stutter. It's got this frame stutter issue that kind of makes it not as great as it would be, but it was an IDOS game. I love Croc, Legend of the Gobos. What a wonderful game by Argonaut Software. It has so many flaws, but it came out so early in 3D platforming. There really weren't any rules, and it just really paved a way. At the same time, Mario 64 came out and just kind of blew it away, to be honest with you. But it was good despite that, and I wish we would have gotten the second one. Let's see here. Cyber Speedway. Grand Chaser in Japan had better music on the Japanese version. This one we got kind of like a Red Hot Chili Peppers knockoff band, which was under the SEGA label, and they were called Bygone Dogs. SEGA was actually planning on releasing music under their label. Let's see here. Kenji Eno. His masterpiece from the 3DO came over perfectly to the Saturn, published by Acclaim, and this was the first, well, no, it wasn't Warp's first game, but it was definitely their first, game featuring Laura Lewis. let's see here. Okay, so Darius Gaiden, another Acclaim publish title by Taito. Excellent game. Highly recommend. It's just a whole hell of a lot of fun. So, I don't know. We just didn't get a whole lot of 2D shooters on the Saturn, so it's just easy to recommend. Dark Savior, amazing game, amazing RPG with platforming elements and fighting game elements, and just, you know, total underrated, often underrated, but it's an amazing game. Definitely try it out. Dark Light Conflict is the closest thing that we would get to Colony Wars, like the PlayStation. It's not as good as Colony Wars, but it is a good attempt, and I actually got into it quite a bit. Rage Software would do that, and EA published it. My second favorite racer on the Saturn, second to Sega Rally, is Daytona USA, the original. This game just oozes the whole arcade Sega feel when it comes to racing, and this game just plays so well. I absolutely love it. This is my original copy that I bought back in the day. I absolutely love this game. It's got the receipt inside and everything. Man, I gotta go faster. Not nearly as good would be Daytona USA Championship Circuit Edition. I got this just kind of to have it, to be honest with you, but I never play it because I don't really enjoy the controls. It just feels completely off. You guys free to disagree. It just feels so weird, and the music's wrong. Everything about it is just wrong. It's Daytona in name. Let's see, Decathlete. This is a fun game with friends. It's a button masher. But playing it alone, I don't know. I don't really play it alone, but when a friend comes over, I'll get out to a second control pad and we'll just mash the buttons. It's a lot of fun. Die Hard Arcade is also an amazing game by yourself or with friends, but definitely with friends. This is a lot of fun. One of the few 3D brawlers that we would get. Die Hard Trilogy. 3 games in one. Probably not as good as the PlayStation version, if we're being honest, but it's still worth owning, I think. Lots of fun. Best game on the Saturn, in my opinion, not my favorite game, but the best game, arguably, I think, is Dragon Force. Here's a game that it took me so long to get into, but once I really got into it, I realized what a masterpiece it was. And of course, working designs, they never fail to impress when it comes to the localization. Duke Nukem 3D with Netlink Play. You can still play it on Netlink today over VoIP. This was Lobotomy Soft, but it doesn't look like they got credit on here. GT Interactive, 3D Realms, and it was a Dark Water title, which I guess means really mature. Don't let your kids play this game. Earthworm Jim 2, Shiny Entertainment. This was an excellent port, and it's a lot of fun to play if you like the Earthworm Jim games. Although it does have that weird kind of like verticality to the platforming. Some people like it, some people hate it. Kenji Eno's second Laura game, Enemy Zero by Warp. This game is really scary, played in the dark. Some people love it, some people hate it, but I absolutely love this game. This game means a lot to me when it comes to the Saturn. Is one of those titles that I have really fond memories of. Here's a game that is actually really, really good. Underrated, plays really well, has great music. Go play it. If you haven't played it, if you like Sega Racers, play it. You owe it to yourself. Fighters Megamix is always in the, it's always in the conversation for best 3D fighter on the Saturn. I don't think that it is, but it's a fun little mashup of Fighting Vipers and Virtua Fighter. So, and of course, Fighting Vipers, you know, it's that quirky 3D fighter where you can smash the arenas and you can smash the armor and stuff like that. So it's lots of fun. It's just not as, I think, not as good as Virtua Fighter 2. Galactic Attack, another Taito Acclaim published 2D shooter that you must own if you're going for a long box Saturn collection. It's absolutely amazing. Probably my favorite shooter, to be honest, on the Saturn. And I mean, that's saying a lot considering there are some amazing shooters on the Saturn. Galaxy Fight. This was a Sunsoft fighter, originally on the Neo Geo. It's a great port though. It plays really well. I think there were some loading times on this, of course, because it's a CD-based console, but still, good game. One of my favorite 2D platformers is Gex. I mean, I don't care that it's a multi-plat game, or this is a great port. I have it on the 3DO. I also have it on the Saturn here, and I absolutely love it. Grid Runner is a Radical Entertainment capture the flag game, and it exceeded my expectations. It's a lot of fun in a party. If you take this to a party and play it with 4 friends, I think, is it 4 or 6? Well, it's only 2 actually. Okay, so I might be mistaking it for something else, but I know that it's fun with a friend for sure. And I think you can play against computer players as well. So you can play against a friend and bots. Guardian Heroes is it's an amazing treasure game. There's a lot going on the screen. There's some slowdown. It doesn't run as well as, of course, the Xbox 360 arcade version, the live arcade version, but it's an amazing game, and I know that it's very pricey now, so you probably just want to pick up the Japanese version or maybe just burn a copy, but it's definitely an amazing game. Here's my friend Sam's favorite game, Gun Griffin, the original. He's always talking about how there's like so much more story in this than we really know. My whole impression of this has been like a very arcadey Sega mech type game, but this was actually Game Arts, and they weren't even credited here on the box. And turns out it's got like a pretty deep story, and Sam is going to elaborate. The Southern Sega gentleman, he said he's going to elaborate on that at some point in the future. I'm really looking forward to that. Hang On GP. It's kind of a frustrating motorcycle racing game, but I got it for cheap, and I figured I'd give it a shot. I do like the music about it though, I really do. I'm not that into Koei games, but I made an exception for Heir of Zendor because I actually like the music on this game, and I actually find the gameplay, even though it's kind of like slow and plodding, it's kind of a strategy game. Plays like a game of chess or something like that. It's a lot of fun actually, and I got it for cheap, so who can argue with that? Hexen, id Software. It was better than the Doom port before it. It's a lot of fun actually. It's kind of underrated, I think. You get magic, you get like magical staffs, you get different weapons. It's just kind of like a magic-based first-person shooter. High Octane Racing was a bullfrog racer, and it's kind of quirky. The track fights back, absolutely. Yeah, there's like all these obstacles, all these things to foil you while you're racing. High Velocity Mountain Racing Challenge. This was like the I believe the Toge King or Toge the Spirits. This was like the first in the series, so this game came out in Japan, and then Atlas would publish it here in the States. I have the sequel, the Japanese import. Highway 2000. This was like Wangan Dead Heat, I think, in Japan, and then Natsume Serious Fun. Natsume published it here in the States. Impact Racing is a weird kind of like, I don't know, James Bondy style. This game is hard to describe. It's kind of got elements of like the Rush 2040, the Rush games. It's quirky. It's got weapons. It's weird. It's not great, but it's interesting. IREM, or well, the guys that would leave IREM and become Nazca and make some amazing games on the Neo Geo, like Metal Slug, did this game. This game came first, and it's an amazing, scrolling shooter with a submarine underwater. There's a lot of slowdown in this, but I still like it. Lots of fun. Independence Day. Who developed this? Oh, Radical. This was another Radical Entertainment game. Some people like this game a lot. Some people hate it. The gameplay is very beige. It's like very just nothing to write home about, but you might have nostalgia for it because of how much Hollywood pushed this film back in the day, and just how much the game industry kind of like got behind it. It was just a big deal, back in the day. But the game, for a licensed game, it's not terrible, but it's not great. Last Bronx, this is my favorite 3D fighter on the Saturn. Literally hands down, even better than Virtua Fighter 2. And I know like a lot of people might disagree with me. I'm not saying it's better than Virtua Fighter 2, I'm just saying it's my favorite. I love weapons-based fighters. I like Soul Calibur, and I definitely love Last Bronx. And it was so much huger in Japan than it was here. When it came over here, it was like no big deal. But in Japan, like they had a movie, they had, comic books, a whole bunch of media surrounding it. We didn't get Necronomicon, but we did get Last Gladiators here in the States, and this is an amazing pinball game by Kaze. It's got a great feel. I really love it. Highly recommend it, and it's cheap. Well, I don't know. The prices for Saturn games in general just keeps rising, so I don't know how cheap it is right now, but it's cheaper than most. Legend of Oasis is the prequel to the other Oasis game, but this is like Story of Thor in the PAL territories. I can't remember what it's called, but it was the other Oasis game on the Genesis, and the music by Yuzo Koshiro is great. It's kind of a derivative, like Zelda clone in a way, but anyway, lots of fun. Loaded. This is just kind of like a run from room to room and just shoot everything in sight, and lots of blood and gore and stuff like that. It's fun in small doses, but I'm not a big fan. And some people are crazy fans of this game. Some people really love it. I'm just not really for me. Here's a game that I kind of really love, even though it's incredibly frustrating. It makes me throw my controller a lot. But I have so much nostalgia playing this with my brother when I was younger. So, it's a 3D platformer action game with dinosaurs. So, and the music is John Williams, so it's really great. This is arguably, tied for my favorite game on the Saturn with Nights into Dreams. Lunacy or Toriko, Geka Mugentan Toriko. It's just an amazing system SACOM game where you just it's almost like Myst in a way, but the movement is more fluid because it's FMV driven. Even the movement is like FMV driven instead of just going frame to frame. But you're basically trying to solve the mystery of this really mysterious town called Misty Town. You start out in the jail and you kind of have to get out, and then you kind of have to discover, why you're there. It's just, it's not for everybody, okay? But I love this game, I really do. Machine Head is one of those games where I think you had to be there. Core and IDOS. This was like during the Core and IDOS, where IDOS took over from Core, and it's just weird, I thought I'd like it better than I do. I'm thinking about getting rid of that one because it's just weird. Magic Carpet was a Bullfrog game, pre-owned, $30. I don't think I paid that much. It was a Bullfrog game that was huge on PC. It was huge at the time in the industry because of the technology that it used. And it was like a procedurally generated game. And we all know like procedurally generated games always make a lot of buzz in the industry, but whether or not they end up being all that, living up to the hype is another story entirely. So, but anyway, it's definitely a game conversation starter because it was a big deal in the games press at the time that it came out. Peter Molyneux, big deal. Another System SACOM game, kind of a precursor, I think, to Toriko or Lunacy. This whole game takes place in a mansion. Plays a lot like Lunacy, though. And I just feel like it kind of is packed with that weird early 90s FMV charm. But I mean, it's better than a lot of the other FMV games that I just can't. I don't like FMV games as a whole too much, but I make exceptions here and there, and Mansion of Hidden Souls is one of those that I'll make an exception. Manx TT Superbike, probably like my, third favorite. Sorry, there's a car going by. Third favorite racer on the Saturn. it's a really fun motorcycle game. Controls really well, really fun to play. The music is lacking, and I wish it had more tracks, but other than that, you know, I'll take it. Marvel Superheroes. This would be the precursor to Marvel vs. Capcom. Excellent game. Not my favorite 2D fighter on the Saturn, but definitely up there. Lots of amazing animation, very comic book art style. Love the combos. Just good game overall. Mass Destruction. This game I think is underrated. This game's a lot of fun. Take this out for a test drive on a burned, or just pick it up for cheap if you can, and you won't be disappointed. It's kind of like Return Fire. Graphics are a little better. I don't know if the gameplay is as good as Return Fire, but it's a really good game. I recommend it. I'll put my seal on it, whatever that's worth. Of the two Midway, well, there was a Midway release and then a Williams release. I got the Midway one because it had Asteroids and Centipede. Yeah, Centipede, Tempest, you know, some good games. Nice arcade compilation by, this was Digital Eclipse, and they're still doing arcade compilations and emulation games to this day. They're publishing stuff like that. Mortal Kombat 2 is my favorite Mortal Kombat game, although this is not the best port, but this was a gift, so it means a lot to me. And Brett, thank you again. If you happen to ever watch this, shout out to Brett Doherty over at the Collectors of America group. This is a great game, and a great game overall. Amazing game for the time, very important for the games industry, and it's my favorite Mortal Kombat game. It's just, you know, not the best port. Mr. Bones is a Sega Saturn exclusive, and for good reason, because it is a very polarizing game. It never made it off the Saturn, probably never will. It's just it's a genre mashup game. It's a lot of fun, I think, but a lot of folks don't like it either for the graphics or for the fact that it's just too quirky, too outside the box. Some people really like, you know, more conventional gameplay, but I like quirky stuff, so I'm more than happy to add that to my collection. This was my first Sega Saturn game. Either this or Daytona USA, I can't really say, but it was literally my first Sega Saturn game, and it was also my first playthrough of Myst, my first experience of Myst. And to this day, if I want to play Myst, I use this copy just because it runs without any problems. I don't have to install anything, and it never crashes, so I absolutely love that game. It'll forever be one of my favorite games of all time. And I have huge respect for Cyan, the Miller brothers, and just what they did, you know, for gaming as a whole, you know, through that game and world building and everything like that. Just the importance of that the industry places on world building because of Myst cannot be overstated. Can't be overstated. Mystaria, the Realms of Lore. This is also known as Blazing Heroes due to like a legal name dispute thing in the States, but it was called Riglord Saga in Japan. It plays a lot like Shining Force 3. It's a really good game. The graphics are, you know, not the best. I think people are turned off by them, but the music is amazing and the gameplay is super deep, so I highly recommend it. It's not as expensive. It's also not as expensive as Shining Force 3, so there you go. NBA Action 98 is an awesome Sega basketball game, and it's licensed. It's got the license, Chick Hearn play-by-play, Sega Sports. It's got the, you know, NBA rosters and the Players Association. So, I mean, I don't think you could do much better basketball-wise. However, if you don't like realistic play and you want something more arcadey, then NBA Jam Tournament Edition also has the licenses. It's just, you know, you get those big heads and you get that cartoony, you know, boom shakalaka arcade gameplay. Acclaim Publish again, you know. But yeah, definitely highly recommend. The Need for Speed is another one of those games that like maybe hasn't aged so well, but it like meant so much at the time in the industry. Like this game was just such a big deal. Road and Track presents The Need for Speed. I actually should have filed this under R, but I filed it under N because But the original title was Road and Track Presents, and they actually had the endorsement of the magazine Road and Track. But yeah, one of the better EA games in my opinion. NHL Power Play and NHL 98. So both of these games were developed by Radical. They're using Radical Entertainment's hockey engine. The only deal is that this was actually a Radical, they got the credit, Radical Entertainment, and it was published by Virgin. It's one of the best hockey games you could play on the Saturn. And then, of course, in '98, Sega didn't have somebody, or they didn't have resources to develop their own hockey game, so they outsourced it to Radical, but basically bought out the title and put it under their All-Star Hockey brand. So Radical didn't really get credit anywhere on the box, but it's right there. You can see they put it in the assets. They're smart. But yeah, also a great game, just a refinement of the original, but they're both great. So if you want to play hockey on the Saturn, these are the ones to get. Peter Malik, who's my good friend and Canuck up in the north, will agree. He's done an amazing article, probably the best article you can read on hockey games on the Saturn, and I think he agrees that these are amazing games. Night Warriors, Darkstalkers Revenge. This is an amazing Capcom 2D fighter with monsters. I absolutely love this game. I probably love this game and this series, Darkstalkers, better than Street Fighter. It's just, I don't know, it's just so good. It's so great. I love it. Nights into Dreams. This is my favorite game on the Saturn. I know I said Lunacy kind of like takes the second spot, but that's more recent. I mean, this right here has always been my favorite game on the Saturn. It's quirky, it's different. It's Yuji Naka. He's a brilliant programmer, and this is just an absolutely brilliant game. It's incredibly misunderstood at times. It is an arcade score attack game. Even folks that know that, it's not for everybody. Some people just don't like it, despite understanding it, and they know what it's about, and they still don't like it. But for me, this game really takes the cake when it comes to the best of Saturn. And I mean, even back in the day, they knew that it was a revolutionary game. The most revolutionary 32-bit game yet. Next Generation Magazine, July '96. So really, this is a masterpiece, and it's really never been topped. I've played the sequel on the Wii, not great. I've played other games that maybe try to be a little bit like it. I mean, I absolutely love this game. Can't say enough good things about it. Pandemonium was another game that, so it was Crystal Dynamics. Pandemonium was another game that was like a big deal back in the day, for whatever reason. It was, one of the games that was pushing the PlayStation, and then you had like, this game came out on like almost every platform, I feel like. And it was just a very talked about title back in the day, but it's like a 2.5D platformer. It's really good. It's it was called Magical Hoppers in Japan, but it's a good game. I don't know that it's as good as everybody was talking it up, but I mean it was an important title back in the day for sure. Panzer Dragoon and Panzer Dragoon's Vi. Here's two of the best games on the Saturn for sure. And if you have a Saturn collection, whether it's import or long box US, these are two games that you absolutely must own. This just for the amazing soundtrack and just the revolutionary gameplay, and then this just for the way that it refined it and just made it so much better with like the dragon morphing and the branching paths, and just it's just so good. Team Andromeda, amazing. Oh, I don't have this in a case. I don't have this in a protective case, but then again, it's a T&E. It's Pebble Beach Golf Links, so it probably doesn't deserve a protective case. Pre-rendered, digitized, or not pre-rendered, but digitized graphics were a huge thing back in the day, and I think you could walk into any mall or any airport and see, like those golf shops which would be demoing like, oh, this lifelike golf game, Pebble Beach Golf Links. And it had the walrus dude, Craig Statler, who'd give you commentary right down the middle. So that was it's got charm for sure, but anyway, it was an important game for the time, though, for sure, because I mean, as far as golf sims go, it made waves, you know. So Powerslave, this is my favorite 3D FPS on the Saturn. It's a lobotomy software game. It's very much like a Metroid Prime kind of game, you know, where you kind of have to backtrack and open up new areas once you unlock certain powers. It's a lot of fun. It's just an amazing game. I feel like it has been underrated for years, but it's starting to come into prominence as far as like people recognizing it for the great game that it is. And then you have Quake, which is also lobotomy soft developed, but obviously a bigger license, a more known license from id, and it's a great port, to be honest with you. I was amazed that at the time, back in the day, like, you know, I was a Saturn fan and I was still amazed that this came on the Saturn. I was like, really? The Saturn can do this, but the PlayStation can't? It just blew my mind. And apparently they had planned on doing it for the PlayStation, but it just never happened. Rayman is also vies for that top spot for best 2D platformer on the Saturn. And it really is an amazing game by Ubisoft, and it kind of jump-started their whole company, and it definitely jump-started this series, which is still running strong to this day. So, you know, there you go. I mean, you know it's good if it's still kicking today, and good games are coming out from the series. And then here's another amazing series that would get its start on the PlayStation and then get ported to Saturn, and it's still alive and kicking today, and Capcom is still making money on this series because it's a great series. This is an excellent port. It's got some exclusives. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend you play it in one form or another. Peter Malik, my friend, just played this game for the first time in 2019, and he wrote an amazing article over on SegaSaturnShiro.com if you guys are interested in a fun read and an interesting perspective, having played it for the first time in 2019. Road Rash, this is probably my favorite EA game of all time, and it's just, you know, brimming with like 90s, you know, cool attitude, and you know, that just, I don't know. I mean, it's a Road Rash game, you know, so you get to beat people with chains, you know, while you're riding on a crotch rocket. But I mean, the cool thing is just, you know, the Soundgarden music and the bar scene where you get to talk to people and stuff like that, and it's just a lot of fun. Robo Pit is kind of a strange title, you know. It's like kind of like battling customizable robots in a 3D arena. So maybe similar to like Virtual On in the fighting, but not so much. I mean, you know, just that's the only thing that I can really compare it to off the top of my head. But it's a cool game. I mean, it's not that expensive, I don't think. Robotica, I feel like, was kind of a showpiece for the Saturn at the very beginning, early days. Like, it had amazing FMV cutscenes, and actually the graphics didn't look bad at all. It's just that it kind of was slow and plodding, and I feel like each level just kind of felt the same, so it was a little blah. But I still like the game, to be honest with you. I really do. That's why I've held on to it, to be honest. Saturn Bomberman is arguably one of the best games on the Saturn. It's not my favorite game, but I mean, it's definitely up there, and it's arguably one of the best. 10-player. It says 6 players on the back, but you can actually see, like here it says 6-player, but here it says 1 to 10. You can definitely do 10-player Bomberman at conventions and stuff like that, and it's a whole hell of a lot of fun. Plus, this has Netlink Play, and yes, you can still play via Netlink over VoIP these days. I've done it. It's a little slow and laggy, but you can still do it, you know. So here's another scavenger title. This time it was Zyrinx, another Amiga demo scene company that would create this interesting racing engine on the Saturn. The only problem is the menus are really lacking. The music is Jesper Kidd, I think. So the music is cool. It's just the menu system and the presentation is lacking. But the overall graphics and lighting, light sourcing is actually really good. Here's a game that I mean, I like it. It's like a 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up shooter thing, but I mean, at the same time, like, some people really have played this and said that they didn't really enjoy it that much. There are light gun sections. It's compatible with the stunner, and I think, you know, one player can control the rope. One player can control like the android guy, and then another player can control the light gun or something like that. It's an interesting title. It's definitely quirky. Here's my favorite racing game on the Saturn, and it's probably a lot of people's favorite, is Sega Rally Championship. This game has an amazing drift mechanic that feels so awesome, so arcadey, but like fluid at the same time. It's just perfect. You know, the game, you just know that it's perfect when you just get right into it and you have this like amazing feel for the controls, you know. Sega Touring Car Championship is actually my guilty pleasure when it comes to racing games on the Saturn. Lots of people don't like it. Lots of people feel like it plays like it's too hard to control or the car is too squirrely. But I use tuning options to really to fine-tune my vehicle and get it to control just how I want it to. Also in the arcade mode, you can just downshift in the corners, and you can quickly get a handle for the controls, you know. So I find this game to be a lot of fun. I enjoy it, even though the frame rate is pretty bad, and that's really what goes against it the most, is the frame rate. It's not, you know, when you get going so fast, but the game is only running in like 15 to 20 frames per second, it's just really hard to corner efficiently and know, you know, when you know corners are coming up, they just come up right on you. So I've got these two soccer games for the Saturn, Sega Worldwide 97 and 98. They're both great soccer games. I mean, I'm not like huge into soccer, but I find these both to be real fun, and I like them better than the FIFA games, to be honest with you. And what's up with 98? Like, for some reason, this game ends up coming up as like really valuable on certain price charting sites, and then on others it just comes up as like a generic, you know, low price Saturn game. So I really don't know what's up with that, but I like them both. Here is like the only Mahjong game that we would get localized in the West, and it's an underrated game because I really enjoy it, you know. Activision published, and yeah, no, I like it. I recommend it. Shell Shock is this tank shooting game, but it's got like this rap, I don't know, like hip hop rap vibe going on with it, and it's a US Gold title, but it's really that quirky kind of like Sega feel. So I don't know, I like it. Shining Force 3. Another one of my favorite games on the Saturn. This is one of those games where I really wish I had more time these days. With kids and everything like that, I don't find a whole lot of time to sink into this, but I want to get back to this game so bad because I got like most of the way through it and then I didn't finish. And then my save got corrupted, so I want to go back to this and just sink loads of hours into this because I absolutely love this game. So good. Shining the Holy Ark. Another amazing game, dungeon crawler. I'm a huge fan of like the Etrian Odyssey games and other dungeon crawlers. This, it has a more like traditional RPG vibe, kind of like your I don't know, I'm having a brain fart right now, I can't think, but I mean, like, you know, it's a little bit more traditional than, you know, your typical like rogue style dungeon crawler, but I mean, it's a whole hell of a lot of fun, and it is a Sega exclusive, which I guess that means that it was ported at some point to another platform, because they didn't put Sega Saturn exclusive. Let's see, Shining, and they didn't put anything on here to indicate exclusivity, so I don't know. Shinobi Legions, or Shinobi X in the PAL territory, this is an awesome game. I love it a whole lot. It's not, you know, it's not as good as the Genesis or Mega Drive Shinobis, but it is good. And even though it has digitized characters, it still plays like a Shinobi game. I really like it. I had a lot of fun with it. Skeleton Warriors. This is Playmates Interactive. This was a fun game. It really was. Who was it developed by? I'm trying to see. Landmark. Yeah, Landmark Entertainment. So this is a side-scrolling platform brawler, and it's a lot of fun. And I feel like I feel like it was probably promoted a lot back in the day in ads and stuff like that, but then it's kind of like dropped into obscurity over the years. But I really like it. Some people maybe don't, and it's probably a polarizing game, but I like it. Sky Target, it's supposed to be like a mainline title, like the Super Scalar game, and then they just kind of rebranded it and put it out on the Saturn, and it wasn't that great of a game, to be honest with you. But I have it here anyway because it's a Sega exclusive. Solar Eclipse. This is a Crystal Dynamics game that came out on the 3DO, and it's also quite good on the Saturn, I think. It's pretty basic, Star Fox-like shooter with, digitized graphics, but it's cool. I like it. Well, Sonic 3D Blast was isometric, quasi 3D, not really 3D, but it was, originally released on the Mega Drive, and then of course they had Richard Jacques do the music for it, I believe, and then put it out on the Saturn because they really needed a 3D Sonic title, because they'd promised a 3D Sonic title and we didn't get it, so they put this out. And I find it to be fun, but it also has a weird camera rubber banding thing that just makes me kind of motion sick. I've said that before, so I sound like a broken record, but yeah, I would play this game more if it wasn't for that camera. Sonic Jam, another attempt at, curbing our appetite for a Sonic game. They would reprogram and port all of these Sonic the Hedgehog and Knuckles games over to the Saturn with a hub world, like a 3D hub world that would show us and tease what a Sonic game would have looked like in 3D. But again, it was just a tease. But I definitely think this is a worthy compilation to own. Lots of fun. Sonic R. I'm not so sure about this box art. Like, they had some amazing, anime style box art, and then they went with this pre-rendered 3D stuff because I think at the time they really wanted to emphasize the fact that this game was in 3D. But it was a Traveler's Tales game, which it does not say on the back. They really should have given them credit. Yeah, it was a Traveler's Tales game with Richard Jacques soundtrack. TJ Davis singing, super cheesy but super great. I love this game. It's lots of fun. Underrated, hated by many, panned and polarizing, but it's a lot of fun. And if you figure it out and you understand the point of the game and the racing mechanic, you will get so much more enjoyment out of it. Let me say that. Here's a very high production value helicopter game. Of all the helicopter combat-based games on the Saturn, which there are many, this is the best. And it kind of takes on an isometric perspective, and it's also mission stick compatible. Really good cutscenes, really high production quality. Space Hulk, Vengeance of the Blood Angels was a really, really great game on the 3DO. And then it was ported over and given some enhanced features and campaigns on the Saturn version. So I really enjoy that game. And here is a snowboarding game by Cave, of all developers. It says Sims on the back. Oh wait, no, okay, so DC and Sims, so there's it's got some sponsors there. But it was developed by Cave. It's a Sega exclusive, and in my opinion, it's even better than Cool Borders. I know I might get some flack for that because some people are really, defend Cool Borders as a franchise, but I really like Steep Slope Sliders. Street Fighter Alpha and Street Fighter Alpha 2 are two of the best Capcom fighting games of all time. I mean, Street Fighter Alpha was great. Alpha 2 just took it and made it even better. And then of course Alpha 3 or 03 is the best, to be honest. But this is still an awesome game. Two awesome fighting games by Capcom. And then you have Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. Another amazing puzzle game on the Saturn with like these little characters in the middle fighting as you are doing puzzle combos and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun and it's very addictive. Tempest 2000 is an awesome arcade port of Tempest, and this actually came out, well, you get the original Tempest and then you get Tempest 2000, which was originally a Jaguar game, and then they brought it over. And it's really great. It's a lot of fun. Great music too. Tetris Plus, it's Tetris on the Saturn, and you got this little guy who walks around on the blocks and you try not to squish him or something like that, or he crawls up the blocks as you're laying down blocks, and it's kind of an interesting concept. I like it. It's not the best Tetris game, but it's good. Three Dirty Dwarves is it's a really fun 2D brawler where you can like take turns between three different characters, and they each have special abilities, and you have to use them and use like this co-op system between switching between them to be able to open up different areas of the game. And it's a lot of fun. It's got some really interesting graphics, and I think it's a lot of fun. Almost done here, you guys. So we've got Thunderstrike. This is let's see, developed by Core. This was actually better than, like, I think better than Blackfire, better than Black Dawn, or whatever all those Black Warhawk. I mean, this was a lot better than those games, to be honest with you. I think that of all the helicopter games, I really enjoy Soviet Strike and Thunderstrike 2. It was a US Gold game, which I know they don't have the best of reputations, but it's a lot of fun. This game, I know, is going to make some of you laugh. It's I don't know why I got it. I think it was just because it was dirt cheap, and I really wanted to see if it was as bad as everybody says. And to be honest with you, it's got some fun elements, but honestly the graphics do look pretty bad. And the cars kind of like float. They kind of like bounce in and out of the ground, which makes it really weird to control. Tomb Raider, this is one of my favorite games on the Saturn, just because I have so many fond memories of this. What an amazing and important game for the time, for the games industry, and it started out its development cycle on the Saturn. Which it's a shame that we never got Tomb Raider 2, but anyway, it's an amazing game. I still really love it. Melora Valley Golf. This is, a lot like Pebble Beach Golf Links. It's also T&E soft, so it's running on the same engine. It's just that they've added like volcanoes and all these weird obstacles and hazards, that are very kind of like tongue-in-cheek. It's very frustrating, let me tell you. It's a really hard game to play, and but I do get enjoyment out of it just because of like the weird quirky twist on golf, Virtua Cop and Virtua Cop 2. They're both amazing games. Of course, Virtua Cop 2 just outdoes Virtua Cop, but yeah, excellent light gun shooters, and they're easily my favorite on the Saturn for sure, without a doubt. And Virtua Fighter 2, arguably the best 3D fighting game on the Saturn. I do prefer Last Bronx because of the weapons that it adds and some of the other things that it adds, but I do love Virtua Fighter 2 for sure. Amazing game. And Virtua Racing was a Time Warner Interactive port, and some people have negative things to say about the Saturn version, but I've played it. I've gotten some really good times on it, and I feel like it controls perfectly fine. I have played the 32X version. I don't own it at this point in my life, but I've played it before on a couple of occasions. I know that it's great. But I feel like this version plays amazing, and it's got so many features. It's like there's so many play options for it, so that's what's great about it. And it's got enhanced music and stuff like that, so I like that. Virtual Casino is a Natsume published title, and it definitely has that kind of like mid-90s Sega style to it, even though it's not a Sega developed game. But it's just gambling, basically, card games and gambling, with like those menu systems that were very common in like Sega titles in the mid-90s. I like it. I don't know. Virtual Hydlide is an Atlas published game that I felt like I just had to get, despite the fact that it is, agreed upon by many that it's a terrible game. Some people really like it though, despite that, and it's definitely got some charm. It's definitely got some quirk to it. For me, I just had to have it because we only got 3 Atlas titles in the States, and this was one of them, and I just wanted to own all the Atlas titles. Virtual On Cyber Troopers is a really fun 3D brawler, like it's a fighting game, but it's not like a traditional, Virtua Fighter kind of fighting game. You're mechs, you've got like rocket boosters, you're running around, you're strafing in these 3D arenas. You're hiding and taking cover behind these large blocks while you're getting fired on, and then you're jumping up in the air and firing on your opponent. So it's definitely like a robot 3D arena brawler, and it's a whole hell of a lot of fun. And this is not the Netlink version, but there was a Netlink version that came in just a regular jewel case, and it still works today. You can play via Netlink over VoIP. This is probably the most sound or most solid 3D golf game on the Saturn, or golf game in general, I think, on the Saturn that we would get. PlayStation would get loads of golf games, great ones, but Saturn, not so much. And VR golf or actual golf is probably the best you're going to do on the Saturn, if you really want like a good playing golf game. And Warcraft 2, The Dark Saga, is much like Command & Conquer, a fine port from the PC, loads of options. It's in 240p, so yeah, it is, the resolution's not as great as if you were playing on a PC, but still Blizzard, still quality, just a single player campaign. Wing Arms. I love this game. I like dogfighting, I like aerial combat. And this game just has like that kind of like quirky mid-90s Sega style. It's hard to put a finger on, but if you play it, you know what I'm talking about. And it is a Sega Saturn exclusive. So once again, like when it comes to long boxes, I always felt like I had to pick up the exclusives, And this is a Sega exclusive. So I guess maybe it came out on PC or something like that. But anyway, Sega Sports Winter Heat, much like Decathlete, but I think even better, is Winter Olympics, and it's another button masher where you kind of have to learn the timing of things, and but this time you can play against 4. You have 4-player compatibility. I'm not sure about Decathlete, how many players that supported, but Wipeout, the original Wipeout, ported over. Psygnosis, and this is an amazing game. I really like the original Wipeout. I know Wipeout 2097 or Wipeout XL is an even better version, but the original Wipeout is still a great game, and I find it fun to play to this day. World Series Baseball 2 and World Series Baseball 98. These don't have protective cases, and they've definitely seen better days as far as I need to get these into some new cases, but what I will say is that for a 2D or digitized graphics baseball game, this is a whole hell of a lot of fun. It's still fun to play to this day. And then, of course, they would take it and apply a 3D engine, pretty much like revamping the game. It takes a lot of cues from World Series Baseball 2. It like still tries to keep the spirit of the gameplay, but then they'd add a 3D baseball engine to this game, and really for the longest time I felt like this was the best baseball game on the Saturn, and a lot of people would still agree that it is. I really like All-Star Baseball 97 though. There's several things that it does really well that I like. Worms. This is kind of like, I want to say it's kind of like Pocket Tanks. It's kind of like Death Tank Zwei in a way, but it's different. There's like a whole load of different weapons, and it's really quirky. There are several differences, several things that make it a lot different than Death Tank Zwei, but I mean it's similar in that kind of like the sense that you have to aim and use a trajectory to fire at other tanks on the play field, and this has support for up to 16 players. So 16 player multiplayer, that's even more than the 10 that you get with Saturn Bomberman. That's pretty amazing. Okay, last but not least, we got Wrestlemania the Arcade game. And it's classic WWF was huge when we were kids, and of course they're not around anymore, but or at least I don't think they're around anymore, rebranded or bought out, but yeah, no, it was huge when we were kids, and this was a direct port from the arcade, and I think that it came over perfectly. It plays pretty much exactly like the arcade game. And then X-Men Children of the Atom, look at that score, all 5s from GamePro. But no, yeah, I mean, of course several games would go on to eclipse this as far as how great they were, but this definitely was good for the time, and it exceeded the version on PlayStation for sure. And then of course, just to round out my collection, or just to finish it up, I guess, is just the few imports that I have. I don't have a lot of imports. I have Gun Griffin 2, I have Nanatsu Kaze no Shima, Monogatari, Monogatari, sorry, which is an Enix game. I have Vampire Savior, Darkstalkers, Lord of the Vampire. I have Jung Rhythm, which is kind of like a Parappa the Rapper style game. Soku Gurentai, just the original version, which I find still runs fine on my Saturn. Drift King 97, total awesome. New limited version 97, really fun game to play. Bomberman Fight, which I got from Mel, Psycholord X, thank you, sir. And Langrizzer Dramatic Edition. I'm not good enough at Japanese. I have some proficiency in Japanese, but not enough to be able to play this game, but still, it looks very, very awesome. 3D Lemmings I also got from Psycholord X, and King of Fighters 96 recently got from Psycholord X in that package that he sent me, because I didn't have a whole lot of import games before that. This is the traditional pack-in version of Virtua Fighter that we got with the console, which is right over there. See, there's my Model 1 Sega Saturn advertising the Virtua Fighter pack-in. Let's see what else. We got Toge King 2, The Spirits. We've got X-Men vs. Street Fighter. Street Racer. Anarchy in the Nippon, which is another 3D, a really strange kind of 3D fighter. Initial D, which I don't think is nearly as bad as a lot of people say that it is. It's another Genki racing game. And then finally, Chorokyu Park. Very, very fun game by Takata. I had a lot of fun with that. And then I have a couple PAL titles, Discworld 1 and 2. Because I just absolutely had to have those. And then a reproduction from Ben Boyd of Police Knots, and a reproduction from Kei Kona of Police Knots, A Murder of Crows. So that, folks, is pretty much most of it. Now I've got a lot of hardware. I've got, you know, like 4 different Saturns, and they're in boxes, and I'm not going to get them out at the time. I've got hardware, I've got peripherals. I just didn't have time to get all of that stuff out and shoot a video for you guys. Besides, that video would just be so incredibly long. But I will show you real quick just to wrap up this video. I'm gonna come on in here, and I'm just going to show you guys real quick. I'm gonna show you just some of the work that I've done. We've got Radiant Silvergun, which is a long box style release. I'm gonna be releasing this one soon. Virtua Fighter, original long box, or long box for the original game that we got in that jewel case that I showed you. Let's see how to put these back. Parodius, which is a PAL. They got it in PAL territories, but we didn't get it. So I really wanted to make this a thing. I haven't done production on this yet because I haven't finished the manual, but I will at some point. Deep Fear, which is a 2-disc. It was made for the US, just never released. So the image on these discs is the unreleased US version in English, fully playable, 60 Hertz. KO2 Flying Squadron. Excellent 2D platformer slash shooter mashup. We've got Metal Slug. Here's another one that I'm working on the manual for, guys. So no, I haven't gone into production on this yet, but I'll show you that I do have, if I can get this open, I do have a disc for it, and you know, inside of the manual artwork. It's just I just haven't finished the actual manual localization, and I want it to be good. You know, if I'm gonna put this out for people to buy, I definitely want it to be something special. So patience is a virtue. This is one of the older reproductions that I did as a collaboration with Pat. The manual's not finished, but we're almost there. I've been, of course, distracted with a lot of other stuff, and then several other people have put out Police Knots reproductions, so I kind of feel like there's a glut of Police Knots reproductions out there, so I haven't felt a rush to, you know, get this done. But I'm coming back to this to finish it up and you know, make sure that it gets out there. It was done in the style of the mock-up that we got. Christmas Nights into Dreams. I think you can still buy like a bootleg of this on eBay. Some guy stole the design and is selling it on eBay, but I don't recommend that you do, because the printing is not very good. The colors are all off, but nonetheless, it's out there. I'll be doing another production on it in the fall. Ninja Penguin Manmaru. This was a quirky 3D platformer by Enix and TomTom, and yeah, here's another one that I haven't finished the manual for, but I'm definitely going to, and I'm going to do a production of it. Linkle Liver Story. We got that fan translation, which was awesome. This was a Next Tech game, one of the early games that came out for the Saturn in Japan. Just never came over to the US, but luckily, because of the fan translation, we were able to make it a thing. And this has a full manual. I'm in production for that game. There is a wait list, but you can check out on facebook.com/SEGA SATURN Dave. You can get yourself on the order list if you're interested in that. Tri-Rush Deppy. This is a really fun 2D platformer, and by Nihon Create, developed by System Supply and Tech. This was published by Nihon Create, but it was developed by System Supply and Tech, and it's just, you know, it's a really fun game. I'm surprised that we didn't get it, because it's completely in English. So, like, you couldn't even tell, like, if you play this, you couldn't even tell that this wasn't like a US game. I finished all the artwork, I finished the disc, I just don't have a completed English manual, so I need to work on that. Here we've got Discworld, Terry Pratchett's Discworld, completed manual on disc. You can order that, or you can get on the order list for it. I'm working my way through it. I just did several more. Discworld 2, Missing Presumed. So this is the second part. We had it over here on the PlayStation in the States called Morality Bites. And then this was the original Deep Fear that I did with the blue and red cover design. And then that was the old back that I had for it. But the new Deep Fear actually has a reversible manual, so you can have the red and blue cover art, or you can have the new design with the monster on the front. So that's my mess of Saturn repro games that I have done so far, and I have several more planned. But for now, that is that. Here's my daily driver, a bunch of crap. It's just a whole mess of stuff, really. But that about does it. That is my Sega Saturn collection for the most part, guys. And I don't think I'm going to be doing one of these videos again for a very long time, if ever, because I'm not really going to be adding anything more to my long box collection, I don't think. And then to be honest, like, I might get a few imports here and there, but it takes a lot of work to do this video. It just takes a lot of time. So, but I just wanted to get this out there so I could, you know, have an updated collection video for you guys. But until next time, it's Saturn Dave, reminding you, go check out Sega Saturn Shiro podcast. Go check out the Sega Saturn Shiro page on Facebook. Check out the Saturn Junkyard. Amazing community, amazing people. Check out my page, Saturn Dave, which is facebook.com/Sega Saturn Dave. I do custom game publishing, and I do some live streams and other stuff. But yeah, until next time, it's Dave signing out. See you later.